to share their earliest memories of their family and their generations in South Brunswick and their best memories of the township.
Well, I came out here in about 1932. I was about 13 then, but Millie was born here, so perhaps she ought to start.
Fine.
Go ahead.
My father bought the property on Davison Mills Road in 1914. He paid about $300 for 3 acres. And it was very, what we would now call primitive. We had no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no water in the house, and no central heating, of course. We had a large coal stove in the kitchen, was the center of everything. We had flat irons on top of there that we used for ironing, and water always boiling. That's where we took our baths. And we had, when my mother she had chickens, and when they became setting hens, and they had eggs, and then when the mother chicken did not want to take care of the baby chicks, she brought them upstairs. We had a warming section of the coal stove, and she used to put the little ducks and the chicks in the warming section, you know, and took care of them. Life was pretty hard. My mother worked very, very hard, so did my father. When my father first moved there, it was a wooded area, and we were right next to the trolley car, right next to the trolley track that ran from Trenton to, what, Elizabeth, or no, New Brunswick or something,
Yeah,
anyway.
to New Brunswick, I think. It was called the
And
Fast
he,
Line.
and
That was what it was really called. Let me, you know, we were in Maine, and there was a museum of old trolley cars, and and we thought the Fast Line was something sarcastic, but it wasn't. It was called the Fast Line. It was written on it. That was amazing. Go ahead.
Anyway, my father started what he called the Middlesex Timber Company. He used to get logs for, I guess, telephone poles, and railroad ties, that kind of thing. He did that for quite a while until it just, you know, that was
Used up the lumber.
Used up all the lumber, and it wasn't until the early 1940s where everybody who had a piece of land built chicken coops and started raising chickens. I went to the one-room schoolhouse in Fresh Ponds. I walked from home about 1.5 miles and 1.5 miles back. I was only 5 years old.
Dirt road, Millie?
Huh?
Dirt road?
Dirt road. We had dirt road. We had a dirt road up to where the bridge is now, the Barrington Lake Bridge. That was not cut through until Dean School was built, and then it cut through to 130. So when we had to leave Davison Mills Road, we had to go on Riva Avenue, either to the right to Church Lane near East Brunswick, or to the left, you know,
By the old mill.
by the old mill.
Where the Werner Mill,
The Werner Mill, well, even before the Werner Mill.
okay?
And I went to, there were 5, originally that one-room schoolhouse had 8 grades, but when the Dayton School was up, they took everyone from the 6th grade on to go to Dayton. So there were still 5 classes in that one-room schoolhouse.
How many teachers?
One.
One teacher.
One
How many
teacher.
kids?
That's very few, very few. Did you know Ruth Reed?
No, I didn't.
She was a Griggs, she used to be Ruth Griggs. No?
Knew the Griggses, but I,
Anyway, she was my teacher. She was a teacher when I was there. And then when the Dean School was built, we better...
Is he on?
He'll be on the tape, but
Well, I'll put him in the other room. Shut it off for a minute. I'll take him out and put him.
And when the Dean School was built, then I went there. I think I went to the one-room schoolhouse maybe for 2 years. first grade about it. Maybe I mentioned it. I didn't speak English. And so I sat there. And when the report cards came out, I went home crying to my mother. Everyone got a card, and she was very annoyed. She went to school the next day with me and asked the teacher why I didn't get a report card. And the teacher says, I haven't heard her say one word. She says, well, what do you expect? She doesn't speak English. But just sitting there without a remedial teacher, without a bilingual teacher, I learned to speak English. Just sitting there in the class for a couple of years, for a month, because the following month I got a report card.
Good, good. And your teacher there was the same one, or?
Well, we had, Ruth Reed was the last teacher I remember, that I remember. She's from that school.
And is that the school that is now the Temple?
No.
That's the school that's right near the church at the corner of Fresh Ponds and Davidson Mills
Okay,
Road.
all right.
You know
okay.
that little building that's right next to that old church?
Right, right, okay.
That's it, that was it. It's still there. The church uses it, you know, but that's the building. We had an outhouse out there,
Huh?
and we had one at home too, so that was no big
No
problem.
That's where you used to do your homework.
Yeah.
It used to be, Fanny had an apple. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, what else can I tell you that, oh, and you know, the trolley was very convenient. My mother would hop on the trolley and go to New Brunswick, and we had what they called peddlers. There was a man who came around with a horse and wagon with ice cream. There was a man who
Which
came
always had
around.
horse hairs in it.
There's a man who came around with stale bread and cake. There was a man who came around with yard goods material. There was someone who came around sharpening knives and scissors. And it really
And did
was
you
very
have,
convenient.
somebody came with ice? Filled
Ice.
The
gas
ice
box.
man, yeah.
Mr. Dosher, was that?
What was that?
I think it was Mr. Dosher, someone told us in Dean's, used to be the Iceman.
Could be.
No, Mr. Steinackel.
Steinegger.
Mr. Steinackel's father.
Uh-huh,
I don't know if you remember Mr. Steinackel, but
yeah.
you didn't know.
No.
And he had a bread
And you know the
man,
boys, he had a big family, about six children. What?
he had a bread man, came to the door,
Yes.
a milkman,
Yes. No, we didn't have a milkman. We had cows.
you had your own.
Tell about your mother and the cow dealer, how she used to deal with it.
No. Anyway, life was pretty hard. It was cold. We had no heat upstairs at all, except for that coal stove. We did have a parlor stove in the living room, and when we went to bed at night, we had to prepare everything we're going to wear in the morning, and we'd have large feather beds, and we would get up in a hurry and run down to and dress in front of the coal stove.
Know the feeling.
You know the feeling?
Yes.
Yeah. My grandmother lived with us for about 25 or so years, and when we had duck or goose or something, she would strip, you know how you strip the, and she made the down pillows and the down comforter. What else can I say?
You went to high school where?
When I went to Dean's School, Miss Pittner was our teacher,
That is the name I know.
and there were 2 grades, 7th and 8th grade, and only 8 of us graduated from 8th grade. And I went to junior high, Roosevelt Junior High in New Brunswick. I was completely lost because the only other one who went with me was Alex Bakuda.
And
Only the two-
he never showed
only
up
the
church,
two of
right?
us.
I mean,
By the way, there was an
high
Anthony
school.
Santawasa in that class.
Yes, my father. Yes,
Who was it?
my father.
You sure that was your father?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
See? Small world, Millie.
I have a picture of him somewhere.
Really?
Yes. I have a,
The trolley to New Brunswick,
no.
to
we had the
school?
bus.
We went on the bus.
Yeah. I think Sid Smalley.
Sid Smalley.
Oh, that was after
Oh, or
Dye,
Mr.
so-
Dye, or,
Yeah.
that's right, Harvey Dye.
Okay.
And then it was Sid Smalley. And I was lost because, you know, at the high school level, you're going from, each subject is in a different room. And here we had 2 classes in Dean's School, you know, and I was lost all through high school and junior high.
Never adjusted.
Huh?
You didn't
I think
adjust.
it
No,
matters.
because as a commuter, I couldn't take part into anything. When I got to the high schools, the senior high school, you can't take part because you're a commuter, you know, and you just have to leave. And there was no, it wasn't the most exciting place in the world.
And then you take the train back or the trolley?
No, the bus picked us up.
The bus?
The bus picked us up. He had a big route, that bus. You know, he used to come
Yeah, I used to
down.
go to high school on the same bus. Oh, but that was, yeah, well, the couple, didn't I go with, you were with me the last year, my last year in high school, weren't you?
I guess.
You started, you on the bus?
I don't know.
Well,
You know,
tell-
it was a very, very difficult
When did you get electricity in the house?
when I was about 13 or 14. That the only reason was not just because of us, but they didn't run electricity down the road at all. You know,
And then when they put the outhouse in the house, your grandmother didn't like that.
Anyway, my mother worked extremely hard. My mother had never seen a cow until she came to Davison Mills. And she really worked hard. In Europe, she saw no cows, and she went to New York City, and that's where she was before she got married. And she just had never seen a cow. My mother came from Austria. My father came here from France. She sewed all our clothes for us. We were 3 girls, so she sewed all our dresses. We never had hand-me-downs like some of my friends in the neighborhood had, because there just wasn't that much money. And she would go to bed quite early, get up about 2 or 3 in the morning and sew, and then she would take the cows out so that they would have in the green pasture, so that she would have a good amount of milk. And she made cottage cheese and sour cream and butter. And that was a big job, churning butter every week, every couple of days.
You forgot, it was interesting when she was bringing, I just wanted to point out when she was delivering her dairy and eggs to New Brunswick, you know, on the trolley. Well, one of her customers was Mrs. Hall of the Halls Mill, Halls Mill murder case.
Yeah.
Really?
So one of her customers was,
So
That's
just,
interesting.
Yeah, that's history. The Hall's murder is back in the papers again.
yeah.
They just had a play a couple months ago.
Right.
We went
Huh?
and saw.
Did you?
We just saw a play a couple months ago of the Hall's Mill murder
Yeah.
case. Yeah.
Now, how old were your parents when they came from Europe? When they came to America?
I think my father was in his early 20s, or maybe a little bit late 20s. My mother was maybe about 17 or 18, or 19, something in there. She came to New York.
Now, did their parents,
You know, unfortunately, when you're young, I asked very few questions. And my parents never talked, very little, about life in Europe.
we hear
Very
this,
little.
we hear this everywhere.
Yeah, I don't understand it. I
Right.
guess they were just,
They were Americans.
huh?
They were happy to be here, and that
They were
was
happy
it.
to be here.
You know, when my father died, he was only 57. So, and my mother ran the farm by herself for about 25 years. Uh, and my sisters were still in high school when he died, so, you know, she had quite a time. But I just never,
Were your
No.
sisters younger or older?
younger.
Younger.
She's
okay.
the oldest.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. Well,
Are we up to where you met Dave?
well, you know, Abe Dobin, who lived next door, we lived next door to him, was a representative or an agent for the Jewish Agricultural
Society.
in New York. And what happened when people came from Europe, I assume, I'm just guessing, maybe that's how my father found out. I can't understand how he found Davis and Mills. But that they placed people on the farms, not necessarily chicken farms, but when the
They helped them find homes.
when the World War II started, no, in 1938, when all the German
refugees.
people came over, he placed them all on the chicken farms. They were placed also on the chicken farms. But anyway, that organization had a youth group that they called Rural Youth Association, RYA. And Abe's sister Sophie,
Sophie used to teach at
Yes.
the Dayton School.
yeah, and Abe's sister Sophie thought it would be a good idea if she got a group together, you know, for that organization. And that's how I met Dave, in that group.
Yeah, we used to go to the beach together and, you know, meet in each other's
You know,
homes.
there were,
So we got to be friendly.
That's nice.
that
nice
was,
one.
don't forget what I forget.
So you were married and you settled here?
No,
No.
I can take it from, we came out, I think around 1932, and we built a small cottage here. This house has been, you know, this room has been added on, and we've added you know, the attic has been turned into another bedroom. We added a few rooms on this, but anyway, it's a larger house. But I came out here, I was just ready to go to high school. So I was commuting on Dye's bus to high school. And that was a dirt road in front of us. And I remember Mr. Henry Von Thun used to live across the street. And he's in charge of the road in the snow. And I recall working for Henry, there's a hill over there, and the snowbank had filled up the hill to about 12 feet high. And I remember shoveling snow going down my neck and onto his wagon and horses, and he'd pull away and dump it somewhere and come back. And so it was a lot more rural than it is now.
That's an understatement.
Yes. You don't like taking our
And
town away.
my father had used to keep a couple cows also for cream and sour cream and cheese, and he'd sell. And he used to work at the in Hightstown at the Farmers Co-op. It was I was going to high school, and I had some friends here in Dayton. There was some anti-Semitism in those days, so I used to fight a lot. After a while, I got a little bigger than some of the guys, so
Well, that
they
you
left
know,
me
that
alone.
was one.
But
I just want to interrupt and say that when I left the house at 5 years old, my mother had 2 words to say to me when I got out the door: "Don't fight."
Don't fight.
well, see,
I
that
was
kid-
guilty of the same thing with my kids.
Yeah, but the kids used to harass her, some of them.
Mhm.
But anyway, so when our son was in school, he was also, he came home one time very put out. What's the matter? He was out on one of the kids who was choosing sides said he's not going to have a Jewish kid on his team. So I went to see, what was the principal? Gordon Poinsett. Let's see if we could smooth it out. And Gordon had a good idea. He said we ought to start a Cub Scout pack and have that kid join our
He was in my den,
In the
the
den.
same boy, I suppose, I don't know if we should
'Cause he
mention his
didn't know any
name,
Jewish
but you
kid.
know him.
Well, we won't mention
Yeah.
it, then he won't
Anyway.
have to edit it.
Okay, so he,
Yeah,
so
so
he
he,
joined our den.
he joined my
And,
den,
it
and I realized why he felt the way he is. His parents were very